What's up, Ofek? How you doing? We'll just wait till another couple people come before we start. Welcome. Not sure who that is. Is that Raphael?
Yes.
Oh, Baruch haba, Baruch haba. Okay, we're waiting for you. Okay, here we go.
Hello, hello.
So let's start. Parashat Vayakel Pekudeh. It's also Parashat HaChodesh. So Parashat Vayakel Pekudeh looks like a repetition of Teruman Tetzaveh. Teruman Tetzaveh was the commandment for the vessels of the Mishkan and the clothing of the Kohanim. Vayakel Pekudeh is the actual building of the Mishkan and its vessels and the actual making of the clothing of the Kohanim. Every word of the Torah is precious, so it looks like it's superfluous. It looks like it's extra. It's really not. There's always things to learn. Now, in addition, when everything's said and done, we see in our parasha Moshe Rabbeinu blesses Bnei Israel. We'll talk about that more. And when everything was built, there was a commandment to actually set up the Mishkan for Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So the actual everything actually finished in Kislev. But Hashem said, no, we're going to actually build it and actually make the whole Mishkan as a whole in Nisan. And that's why Kislev was paid back with Chanukah. And the end of Sefer Shemot finishes by telling us that Hashem's Shekhinah entered and rested in the Mishkan once everything was complete. Shabbat HaChodesh is when Moshe Rabbeinu commands Bnei Yisrael about the laws of Rosh Chodesh, and on that year that they must make the Korban Pesach, get it ready for Pesach. And so do today, we read the Parasha in advance of Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Shabbat before, for the Korban Pesach as well. Chodesh is Chadash, a new moon, newness, having a freshness in our Avodat Hashem. And we see in the Parasha that Moshe gives an accounting to everything that came in for the Pekudi Mishkan. These are the reckonings, the counting of the Mishkan. So why do you have to give accounting of the items? Obviously, number one is when you handle communal funds, there needs to be transparency. There needs to be full accounting. Also, Moshe Feinstein says that we learn from over here that everything needs to have an accounting. Every part of our life needs to be we need to be accounted. Hi Ezra, how are you? Hope you're feeling better. We miss you. Hope you're doing good. We'll see you soon. So we need an accounting from Moshe Rabbeinu for the items in the Mishkan and the donations, because this is a lesson for us. We have to look at ourselves and say, every day, did I do my day properly? Am I using my time wisely? Am I using my body correctly? Am I using my intelligence in the proper way? And every day we have to look at ourselves and say, am I improving? Am I getting better? Am I using my time? So this is a general thing that not just for the Mishkan, but for everything we have to make an accounting. Now, at the beginning of Parashat Pekudeh, the Torah tells us the entire weight of all the gold in the Mishkan. It was 29 kikar and 730 shekel. That's in Pasuk Chav Daled, right at the beginning. Kol hazahav ve'asod ha'melacha b'chol melechat kodesh v'hi zahav ha'tenufa tesha ve'esrim kikar, 29 kikar, u'sheva me'ot u'shloshim shekel, and 730 shekel b'shekel HaKodesh. It tells us the exact amount. The Sforno, Rabbi Ovadia Sforno points out that this was a much smaller amount than what Shlomo HaMelech used in the Bet HaMikdash. And what was used in the first Bet HaMikdash is much smaller than what was used in the second Bet HaMikdash by King Herod. So, Melech Hordus. So the Sforno points out that it's interesting that you have the Mishkan has the smallest amount of gold. First Beit HaMikdash has a little bit more, and the second Beit HaMikdash has even more. So what's going on over here? This teaches us that it's not because it's a golden or more flashy, more beautiful building, does it mean that there's a concentration of the Shekhinah there. Because we know the strongest level of the Shekhinah was in the Mishkan. Then in the first Bet HaMikdash, and the second Bet HaMikdash had the least because the first one was already destroyed. There were 5 things missing in the second Bet HaMikdash that was not in the first Bet HaMikdash. And therefore, the Shekhinah, we see from over here that the level of the Shekhinah is not in correlation with necessarily the most beautiful building. It sometimes could work that way, but we see over here for the Mishkan that it's not that way. That the Mishkan, which actually we're going to see in a moment, the Mishkan was never destroyed. We'll talk about that in a moment. The 2 Bet HaMikdashes were, unfortunately. So the concentration of the Shekhinah in the first Bet HaMikdash in the Mishkan was much stronger than the first Bet HaMikdash. The first Bet HaMikdash was much stronger than the second Bet HaMikdash. And it's in the opposite direction for the amount of gold, telling us that the Shekhinah rests where there's more kavanah, where there's more devotion, and not necessarily connected to the gold, the silver, and the actual physical building. The first pasuk of Parashat Pekudei, Ele Pekudei HaMishkan, Mishkan HaEdut, Asher Pukad Api Moshe. Welcome, Eric. Baruch haba. So the first pasuk of Parashat Pekudei says the word Mishkan twice in it. These are the countings of the Mishkan, Mishkan HaEdut. So Rashi points out that it says the word Mishkan twice. Mishkan is the word mashkon. Mashkon is how do you say it? Mashkon in English?
Collateral.
Collateral. Thank you so much. You lend something to someone, they give you a collateral. So the collateral, the 2 Mishkans referring to the Bet HaMikdash, it was taken from us because of our actions, unfortunately. But the third Bet HaMikdash is going to last forever. But the Rabbi Ovadia Seforno points out that it's just the Bet HaMikdashes that were destroyed. The Mishkan was never destroyed. The Mishkan, what happened was we were in Eretz Israel. We had the Mishkan, which was temporary in the desert. We walked around with it. In Eretz Israel, there was a few places that it resided for a little bit. It was in Shiloh. It was in Nov. It was in a few places. And then Hashem says, okay, tells David HaMelech, build an actual structure, a place that's going to be permanent in Yerushalayim. That's a Bet HaMikdash. What happened to the Mishkan? It was hidden away. Because Moshe Rabbeinu was the one that built the Mishkan, it never got destroyed. Hidden. Maybe it's under the Bet HaMikdash. We'll see when Mashiach comes. But points out the Rio Seforno that when it talks about the Mishkan, also one of the Psukim is Atzeh Shitim Omdim, talks about the trees, meaning the barks for the walls of the Mishkan. Atzeh Shitim Omdim Leolam. They were standing forever. And that connects to what we were saying before, that the place with the most Shekhinah, the most Kavanah, that's what lasts the longest, more than the first Bet HaMikdash and more than the second Bet HaMikdash. And this teaches us as well that when we build Jewish institutions, synagogues, schools, we have to have the proper kavanah. The more kavanah, the more heart, the more kedusha, the longer lasting it is. If it's built for the wrong reasons, then unfortunately it's not as long lasting. And there's a great Rabbi Natan Tzvi Finkel, one of the past Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir Yeshiva, which I mentioned in one of the speeches. It's, I think, the second longest running yeshiva in the world. The longest running yeshiva, I think we mentioned this from the 1700s. I think yeshiva Bet El Mekubalim in Yerushalayim is still going on. The Mir Yeshiva a few years ago celebrated 200 years. Even though the Holocaust, they were continuously having the yeshiva in Shanghai where they all escaped there. And and it really started booming over the last bunch of years in Yerushalayim, where they have that's the biggest yeshiva in the world right now. And Renata Tzvi Finkel, when they were building one of the buildings at the foundation, at the the Evan Pina, at the foundation ceremony, he was giving a shiur while with his hand he was pouring in or pressing the button or pouring in the concrete for the foundations to show that when we build physical, it has to have with a good kavanah, it has to be with kedusha. At the end, after we build the Mishkan, the Torah tells us, "Vayivarech otam Moshe." Moshe Rabbeinu blesses Bnei Israel. He sees Bnei Israel. They did this amazing thing, the Mishkan. He gives them a blessing. And from here, there's a custom. We give chazaku baruchs, we give thank yous to people after they get an aliyah, after they do something good, give them a thank you, give them a chazaku baruch. And in this case, though, which could be applied to other cases, you might say, you know, what did Bnei Yisrael do to deserve a thank you? You might say, okay, thank you. What is it already? It's just a thank you. But, they were commanded to do this. They didn't have a choice in the matter. They had to build a Mishkan. So technically, why is Moshe thanking them? But of course, we learn from here a great fundamental of Hakarat HaTov, recognizing the good. That's exactly what it is. I didn't have to thank you. This is Hashem commanded you to do this. But I recognize you did something over here, even though you were commanded to do it, and therefore you deserve a thanks. We learn this from Moshe Rabbeinu. The Kohen does Birkat Kohanim. There's a commandment. They have to do Birkat Kohanim. They have a mitzvah. It's on them to do Birkat Kohanim. But when they come down, we give them a Chazak Baruch. We say thank you, even though it was their duty. They still did something for Klal Yisrael, something good. We have to thank them. So too, there's a Mishnah that tells us regarding Shemitah that that when people that were poor would go to the fields and get food for free, because that's how it was in Shemitah. They would walk into the fields, they'd get the food for free. When they on their way out, they would say thank you to the owner. Even though the owner, he had to leave it open. And you could say, I don't need to say thank you. But, it's his duty to leave it open for us. Nevertheless, we have to have hakarat hatov. So that's the principle we learn from here. That even though the giver, is maybe obligated or whatever, it doesn't absolve me from my obligation of giving thanks. I received something, I have to give a thank you. I mentioned a story in the past, and reminded of it again today, the importance of thank you. There was a soldier in the 70s, and who it seems like maybe in the 6 Day War, his Jeep drove over a mine and he was severely wounded. He he lost consciousness, didn't know what was going on, and when he finally awoke up in a hospital bed, he saw that they unfortunately had to amputate his legs. And he made it out of the hospital eventually, but to now live with no legs, it was very, very difficult. His friends came to try to console him, and his parents were there for him. But he became very down. He was happy that he was alive, but he was very down. He was angry at life, angry at the army, angry at the country, angry at Hashem. And he was very cynical, very negative. A few years later, he became part of a group of the war amps and the IDF, Nitchei Israel, the disabled of Israel, and um, they took them on a trip to New York. There were 150 wounded soldiers, and they went to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe, when he spoke to the soldiers, he told them that the body, of course, is very important. But what's more important is the neshama. What's more important is the soul. The body is here to serve the soul. If the body is being used for something else, not to serve the soul, then it's not its purpose. The body is here to serve the soul. So even though now your body has some limitations, your soul is still 100% and still as powerful as ever. And your body, therefore, is whatever state it's in, its function is to be used for the neshama. And you, in a certain way, you might be missing some components of your body. This is an amazing speech. But that means that Hashem gave you a greater neshama because you're lacking the physical, which is contrary to neshama. So you have a lack in that. That means you must have a greater neshama because you don't need as much body. He told them the army calls you Nechei Yisrael, the disabled of Israel. I'm calling you Mitzuyane Yisrael, special and exceptional of the army. And the Rebbe proceeded to go around and give everyone $1, give them everyone a few words of chizuk. And when he held on to this person's hand, he gave him $1 and he told him, "Thank you." And this person, that's what he needed all these years, all that time. He was not recognized for his service. He gave a great sacrifice to the country, to the people. He gave his legs. And someone from a very high position now gave him a thank you that gave him life. That gave him a sense of, okay, we're in this together. Some get injured, some don't get injured, some have to take it for the team, but we're all together in this. And this person was able to fight through his situation, become successful, and fight through any of that downness that he felt from his situation. He didn't feel like he had limitations anymore because he became a person that was totally focused on following soul, following his neshama, not feeling limitations from his group. That's the importance of thank you. So Moshe Rabbeinu gives a thanks to Bnei Israel, even when, in a certain way, a certain outlook, there's no obligation for it. Nevertheless, thank you. How important Hakarat Tov is. Maybe I spoke too fast or underprepared, but that's what I got for today's shiur. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm not sure who Zoom user is, but thank you for coming on, and we will see you. Feel better as well. All the
Thank you,
best.
Rabbi.
And Shabbat
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom and Shabbat Achodesh Shalom as well.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah, my pleasure,
Shabbat
Zach.
Shalom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the
Thank you.
best. Bye.
Bye. Have a good day.